Hi, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Leveraging AI for Innovative Fundraising. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here. My name is Alex Filippelli. My pronouns are he and they, and I'm one of the co-project directors of the LGBTQ TA Center. This webinar is being recorded and will be made available to CRDP grantees on the TA Center YouTube channel. Before I turn things over to our presenter, I have a couple of slides about the project and our funder. This webinar is hosted through the LGBTQ TA Center. We provide no-cost training and technical assistance to 6 grantees funded through the California Reducing Disparities Project to implement and evaluate community-based programs that support mental health among California's LGBTQ populations. Since 2016 and until 2026, our staff and consultants will work intensively with grantees to promote strategic planning, effective implementation, rigorous evaluation, successful scaling up, and ongoing financial sustainability. CRDP is funded through the Mental Health Services Act of 2004, which imposes a 1% income tax on Californians earning over $1 million per year. The initiative is administered through the Office of Health Equity by the California Department of Public Health. In all, CRDP supports the implementation and evaluation of 34 programs addressing the mental health prevention needs of 5 priority population groups: African Americans, Asians and Pacific Islanders, Latinos, LGBTQ, and Native Americans. Participating community-based organizations are implementing community-defined evidence practices, or CDEPs, that have shown positive results for reducing mental health disparities. The immediate goal of CRDP is to invest in these CDEPs to evaluate and validate practices that provide credible evidence of effectiveness. And the long-term goal is to support the replication and dissemination of evidence-based programs serving communities that have historically been unserved, underserved, or inappropriately served by existing mental health prevention and early intervention providers. And now, please join me in welcoming our presenter, Norris Chabrier.
Hey everyone, my name is Norris. I am located in Los Angeles. I've been doing fundraising for over 20 years now. And I used to do it at different nonprofits, primarily queer and HIV related organizations. And now I get to do this independently through coaching and consulting. Today, we're going to be talking about AI and how we can leverage AI, especially, small organizations that have limited budgets. I know that there's a lot of talk out there about AI, and there's some risks of using AI, but there's also some benefits of using AI, especially, again, if you're an organization with limited resources. For today, what I'd love for you to take away, some of the learnings and objectives are understanding the basics of AI. And we're going to be using 3 specific applications to automate and to, play around with AI according to, your needs at your organization. We're going to identifying some of those tools, which I just mentioned, and then we're going to develop some strategies using it. Today, I would like you to kind of play around with the technology. There's going to be an activity that you all can kind of work in teams. But before we go into that, just a definition of what AI is. Artificial intelligence, or AI, involves creating computer systems that can automate tasks. And usually it's a machine that kind of learns the information. So that you can automate it and kind of let it go. It's like an assistant or a mini you in some cases. These tasks include learning, decision-making, and more. For nonprofits, like I said, is automating routine tasks, analyzing data for insights, and enhancing donor engagement. And that's more relevant for us because we're going to be talking about fundraising here. So like I said, today we're going to be using 3 tools. The first one's going to be ChatGPT. The second one is Canva. And the third one is MailChimp. I believe there's some email reminders sent out prior to this webinar that you should have created an account. You don't have to be 100% familiar with these technologies, but at least having an account so we can dive right in. ChatGPT is a language AI tool. what it does is you can it's like having a virtual assistant where you train this AI to respond to your needs. So as you get ChatGPT to do these tasks for you, it starts learning, right? It starts learning what are your organization, what are the needs of your organizations, your tone. You get to have a conversation with ChatGPT, and it's kind of weird, but it'll respond, and it just continues to learn, continues to learn your brand per se. It's also really good for generating ideas for content. It's also a good thought partner. Just to get a lot of people use this to get their projects going, especially with writer's block and all that. Second tool we're going to be using is Canva. Canva is actually free for nonprofits. I'm not sure if you know that. And what Canva does is it's the visual piece of the visual piece of AI. It's a tool that uses it's an aggregate visual learner. And so there are templates in there for all types of things, from Instagram posts to fundraising pages to websites. It's really intuitive. And actually, they just added a feature where you can prompt it to create an image of anything you'd like. A rooster crossing the street or anything like that. You can enter it, and it'll procure that. And that is really useful when you don't have any images or visuals for whatever it is that you're trying to communicate. The last tool is MailChimp, and it has two functions. MailChimp, what it does is it's an email marketer. So it sends, your email blasts. And in addition to that, it actually has some insights. So who's opening it? It collects a lot of insights. So who's opening your emails, both by demographics and also just by email. That way you can tailor your messages so that, it targets the right people in the right way. There are different functionalities in there where you can test. I'm not sure if anyone is familiar with A/B testing, but you can, kind of test if one product works over the other. If one email is being opened, or, if users have a preference that might be in the visuals or it might be in the language that you're using. Any questions so far? Jose and Chris?
Yeah, I'm not at my keyboard right now, but I'm definitely familiar with ChatGPT and Canva. I have not used MailChimp too much, but sounds cool.
Yeah. And who is this? Sorry, I couldn't.
Oh, this is Chris. Sorry, I'm San Francisco from your heel.
Thank you, Chris. So, Chris, what are you familiar with in terms of what have you used ChatGPT and Canva for?
ChatGPT I use for everything. I love it for even just kind of, so I'll take, we have a lot of contracts, a lot of grants and stuff. And so we have, when we have progress reports due, I think what has been kind of the practice in our organization is that we just kind of hand this off to our program managers or the program staff and just ask them to come up with something. And instead now we're using ChatGPT to, we'll meet about it, we'll talk about it, we get a lot of good dialogue going, and one of us is taking as comprehensive notes as we can, and then we plug that into ChatGPT and ask it to come up with, summarize this into a nice narrative, and it does, and it writes it for us. It also kind of helps with just organizing some. We have a lot of new program managers who are kind of new to their job and their role, and I'll work with them and put things into ChatGPT if we know what we need to get done, creating action plans and outlines, and yeah, and like you said, just kind of getting things started. Like if we want to or rephrasing something. Like there's, for instance, when I'm writing grants, one of the big things that we have to do is an organization overview. And instead of copying and pasting the same one that we write into everyone, like we'll just have it kind of rewrite this so that it reads new, but it has all the same information in there. So yeah, I love it. It's making my job easier. Yeah. And then for Canva, I mean, I've used it myself a little bit. I've actually more helped other people using it, and it's more for like creating nice presentations and but I haven't really used the AI portion of Canva too much. So I would say I'm more familiar with ChatGPT, less with Canva, and not familiar with MailChimp.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Interesting how everybody everyone in different roles, right, has a different way of using these tools. Like you were saying, for you, it's like analytical, to summarize, right?
I haven't used them either. I am extremely curious about all three, especially MailChimp and maintaining listservs and finding out who is just not interested in really receiving emails and getting them off lists. And then also it looks like you can learn to tailor your messages in a useful manner.
There's also a couple of comments in the chat. Jose is saying that they don't use them, and Adriana is also saying that has not used them, but wanting to learn more about how to use them.
All right. So in terms of writers, what are some projects that ChatGPT could help you in terms of writer's block? Some of them were and we're thinking about fundraising here, right? So what are some things that we can hand off to ChatGPT using in thinking of fundraising? What are some things that we can use ChatGPT to get rid of writer's block or to get us going? What are some projects?
Yeah, I think just drafting a clear message. I'm pretty wordy, so just kind of getting something succinct, that might be helpful. Like a clear message for your, I don't know, audience or whatever.
Anything else that comes to mind?
Well, I kind of already mentioned writing portions of grants and that kind of stuff. But if you're looking more for the anecdotal approach, like depending on where you're going versus instead of being so data heavy, it's more anecdotal depending on the funder. I like to play with ChatGPT and asking it for okay, write this, but give me more of an anecdotal to pull at the reader's emotions or something like that. And that is helping a lot. The other thing I was going to mention earlier, and it's kind of going off track, but ChatGPT has a number of new new kinds of tools, and one of them that really helped me in getting a grant continued, which we thought was not there was no chance at all, was their data kind of reporting. So you can upload Excel to it and ask it to come up with graphics, and it's something that would have taken me hours to do. I was able to do in 15-20 minutes, and it gave it such a beautiful look. And I had I had a color scheme, and it literally went into the funders received it really well, and they wanted to continue the grant, which was great. I was more scrambling, figuring out, trying to come up with what we were going to submit, but they liked it a lot, and I was like, well, it's thanks to ChatGPT.
Wow, that's great. One of the drawbacks about ChatGPT is confidentiality, or sharing confidential information in there. It's a great tool to, like you said, get language out. So if you do have writer's block, or you just want to get something started, one thing you might want to consider or think about is when you want it to spit out analytics for you, to be careful what you actually share with ChatGPT, so that it's not identifying information. Because once you put it out there, it's out there and you can't really get it back. So just one thing to think about, as you use ChatGPT. So it's a great tool, for all that. But once you enter identifying information, that's like a whole different, beast after that, because you can't really get that information back from there. So just something, to keep in the back of your mind. Okay.
Yeah, I know that some of our grantees in the LGBTQ Hub do like annual events, like to talk about what they've been doing over the years and get people excited, about the accomplishments. And it's part just appreciation and celebration, and part also fundraising. And I think ChatGPT could really help amplify the speech writing that goes on there. I think people already have the ability to write good speeches, but I think ChatGPT could, take the words that they already put in there and then just I've seen this AI in work in practice, and just kick it up a few notches and really write these awe-inspiring speeches that people that create standing ovations at these kind of events.
Yeah, I haven't been to a standing ovation one yet, but yes, this. What I like to do with ChatGPT, it's a starting place for me. It spits out whatever it is that I asked it for, and then I refine it, because a lot of the language that ChatGPT uses is very stale. Repeat some words, that they think that people want to hear, that are very like textbook. So it removes the personal or your branding aspect of things. Each organization, each person has like a tone, a way of speaking, and you can train it, right, to learn your tone and your language and your vocabulary. But there's still, you still need to finesse it after it like gives you whatever it is that you requested from ChatGPT. That's really important, especially if you're using that content to market. Because when you market, and this is like a side note, but also very important, if you were to copy and paste the language that ChatGPT gives you, just as is, on your website, on your emails, any place that you're distributing that, those databases, those places that hold that, the text, know that it is ChatGPT, that it is AI. So it has like a tag on that if you were just to copy and paste it onto a website or your email. And so what happens then, these other, like your email, filters it as spam, or it puts it as, it puts it in a different pocket of things like promotion and spam, because it's, it has this, I don't know anything about coding, but it has a tag in the text when you copy and paste it onto another thing. So also be careful, and this is why it's really important to finesse it and personalize, whatever it is that you do get from it. So takeaway from this, I would say, is whatever it is that you get from ChatGPT, it's a draft that then you will have to work on. Regardless, if it's the last draft, but it's still a draft that you need to, continue working on. Canva, I'm excited to use Canva with everyone here, because has anyone else used Canva? Anyone else that has joined? But yes, so this AI component of creating images that I can share with you in a little bit is really exciting, because a lot of organizations, and this is a note to everyone here, please take photos of your events, collect all, as many visuals as you can. Because otherwise you're going to be creating AI images that sometimes, they have 5 fingers, 6 fingers, 7 fingers. They're like weird kind of things, but it is a good tool to use for visuals. All right, so since it is a small group, I'm going to share first the activity that I have planned for us, and then we're going to go through each tool to kind of brainstorm what that would look for us. So the activity that we're going to do as a group is, this is Give Big Day. That's the thing that we're all, working towards. And we're all part of an organization, Direct Story Time. And it's a nonprofit that organizes weekly story sessions led by local drag queens, kings at the local library, and emphasizing LGBTQ themes. The funds collected from this big day of giving will boost the organization's national visibility and support a US tour. The fundraising target is set for $100K. So the idea here is, June 30th is this big day that we're all excited for, and we're going to be using AI to create this fundraising appeal. Ideally, you would have 3 months or so to kind of work towards an ask or a date to kick off your campaign. This time we have a little bit less, but again, this is imaginary. So the task is to draft an appeal, to design it, and then to personalize and analyze it. So what do I mean by drafting an appeal? And you could just unmute yourself if you think you have an answer and you want to share. And this is all related to fundraising, remember. So what are parts of drafting an appeal? All right, so let me share my other screen, and we're just going to jump into ChatGPT. Let's ask ChatGPT. So it went very detailed. So it started with the header.
That is super detailed. I asked it, I typed in help me draft a fundraising appeal, and then it just created a template letter for me. And then it was like, you can add in your mission, your organization's mission, and this is why you do this, but it's really great.
So how about I give ChatGPT the prompts that I gave you and see what it comes up with. So the idea here, one thing that you have to, again, we're training ChatGPT. So think of ChatGPT, or I like to think of ChatGPT as my assistant, who, obviously if I step out, they're not going to do anything because they need me to prompt it. But the more and more I work with ChatGPT, the more and more they understand me and my tone and my brand. So it's easier as you still have to finesse it, but it's easier, they know you better. So here, what are some, and the game is the prompts, the game is how to prompt GPT to get what it is that you want out of ChatGPT. So what are some ways that I can, or actually, let me just, this is going to be the last one, and I'm going to ask you to kind of give me prompts and move this along. But I'm just going to insert this information and tell it, here is the information. Can you use this to draft? So I just copied and pasted the information from the slide. It is fascinating, huh?
That's so good.
All right. So this is what it gave us. This gave it to us in email format, subject line for email. If there's some stationery or letterhead that you use, very business, we don't have the address. Otherwise, I think it would probably would have put the address the very, formal way. What do we think about the ask? We're writing to you on a special day for Drag Storytime, an initiative that has brought vibrant colors and diverse stories at our local library every week. Thanks to the inspiring performance of our talented local drag queens and kings. Oops, that was coming. Today we launch our most ambitious chapter yet, a national tour to bring our beloved story sessions to libraries across the US, promoting inclusivity and the joy of reading through LGBTQ plus themes. Why we need your help. Despite the joy and community our sessions have fostered, many communities nationwide have never experienced this kind of program. With your help, we aim to raise $100,000 to expand our reach, transforming Drag Storytime from a local treasure into a national beacon of diversity and inclusion. The impact of your donation. Every dollar you donate pushes us closer to our goal. Here's how your support can make a difference. $50 helps provide costumes for books for one session. $100 covers a travel cost for our performers to new cities. $500 sponsors an entire story session in a new community. How to donate. Gives you the link or send a check to the main office. Every contribution, big or small, makes a difference. And thank you for your support. Your support not only helps us bring stories to life, but also champions the cause of acceptance and diversity. Together, we can turn the page to a chapter where every child can see themselves reflected in the stories they hear. That was pretty good, that last one. They used a lot of literary kind of, turn the page, symbolism. Your opinions on this? What are some thoughts on this draft?
I love it.
Does it still need some more judging?
I mean, yeah, I think there's like ways of doing personal. I think at some point we start to recognize when things are AI generated. So, I mean, I think there's ways that you can personalize this a little bit to the organization. But it's a solid start, like.
So what are some things that for you call out, this is like AI generated?
I mean, I think in like the way that it's kind of structured, like, the list almost, I mean, it's great, but I just feel like there's not a lot of, it's lacking personality. In my opinion, I would probably add something, and we didn't really prompt it with like an organization, but I would almost like in the beginning part kind of introduce the agency and kind of reframe the intro to discuss like why this is important to the agency and what the agency like stands for, something like that, to kind of give yeah, that's what I would maybe do with this.
And Alex, Adriana?
I found that the first paragraph is a little adjective heavy and over vivacious. While I think all of those adjectives should remain in the final product, I think they should be stretched out between more sentences somehow because they're like a little over like it's our talented grand piece that are inspiring performance and our breathtaking beloved stories. It seems a little like over the top, but again, I like all of those things and just add a little bit more water to the broth so that it's not so salty. And then the other thing about the donation levels, I like aiming high, but maybe also like at the end maybe adding an option like or whatever you can give or whatever you'd like to give or something to imply that you can give more, but also allow people to give less because we are a diverse community and not all of us, especially, BIPOC folks and TGN folks can afford to give $50, but may want to support, this kind of community building activity. So I would just kind of add that without having to go to the link to the donation page, which would surely allow that kind of fill in the blank. But invite people to after 500 maybe add a bullet that says not or less, but or what you'd like to give or something like that. Those were the two areas that I noticed most. Just stretch out those.
Yeah, that's a great observation. I use ChatGPT a lot, and it does do that. It gives you like vibrant and diverse, all these words that are great. But like you said, when they put them all together at it's very heavy, and you need to kind of spread them out and put them all over. Yeah, sprinkle them somewhere else. A comment on what you said. I think that's really important to bring as many people into the fold of the fundraising campaign or a gift that's significant to you. Yeah, that's like a very simple way to kind of get everybody, or however you want to, rephrase that. Anything else on this that would need some finessing, or that's that stand out that this is AI generated? Like I said, I personally like this last one where they use together we can turn the page to a chapter where every child can see themselves reflected in the stories they hear. I definitely would not have thought of that line, but I would want to say something like that. So again, it's really good, to get you out of that writer's block. Anything else on this? Or let's try another, let's try drafting another appeal. Let's ask it for, let's see. Let me get a prompt from you out there. If we were to change this, same parameters, what's a way that we can ask ChatGPT to change this? Maybe you don't like something in this one. What prompt should I ask it to change it? And it could be anything. I'm not sure if it was Stephen or Chris who had shared about the organization's background.
Oh yeah.
Let's give this organization a mission. What's the mission?
I mean, I'm just going based on our mission. Our mission is very simple, which is it's simple, but I don't even know it. Hold on one second. Yeah, our mission is to transform lives by advancing health, wellness, and equality. Um,
I'm just adding some stuff. And actually, I'm going to put a typo because it'll, even if you do typos in here, it'll understand. uh, so what ChatGPT did right now, it literally just like pasted it into the current structure. I'm gonna prompt it something else. Let's see. So I'm asking it, instead of just pasting into it, to see if there's another way that it can include it, but with better flow. All right. So here, it pretty much changed the beginning piece of it, every word of things. So it sounds more natural. It flows better. The other version was literally just copying and pasting it into the body of the appeal. Any questions on this?
no questions, but I thought maybe another example would be to include the additional funding contribution levels. If we asked it to include other funding level, like, I mean, you could do it yourself, but sometimes it's also fun just to have to do for you. Shame.
So what would we prompt it?
I would say, can you include additional funding levels and maybe a sentence that, any amount is acceptable or something like that.
Let's see. Okay, so it added 25. It added 250. And yeah, no amount is too small. Every dollar counts towards making a difference. So as you see, the more, once you read it and you're like, oh, I forgot about this piece, or it should mention this piece, you can continue prompting it and working on it. And like I said, this is your draft. Remember, this is your draft. So whatever it is that, your final product from ChatGPT, that's going to be your draft. And then you're going to finesse it some more. So we could actually use ChatGPT also to think, if you don't have a creative team, or if you're not creative yourself, and this is still something that you still have to work on, you can ask ChatGPT how ChatGPT thinks that this would look visually. Any recommendations? So how might we ask ChatGPT for that? So if we want to turn, all this text into something appealing that we can use for our next step, which is Canva, what are some prompts that we can ask it?
I would just tell it that I want to take everything here and turn it into a visually appealing document. And I might even just say using Canva. Can you give me some pointers or something like that? And that'll usually get me started.
You can also put a comment in the chat and show me a visual representation of this data.
Hmm. Of this data, you said?
Yeah, show me a visual representation of this data.
So here, before it's prompting, it's giving you the structure, right? It's giving you a structure to how to visually represent everything that's on the letter in the letter. So choose a template. It's giving you the step-by-step incorporated brands. If you have any logos, your images, the key points, organizing information clearly. This is all pretty much templates, you know. So I think it assumed that it was data. But let me see if I could let me just copy in this. Let's see. Oh.
So it's like not doing it, but it's telling me what to do.
What if you asked it to just draft something for you?
I wonder if I don't know if my Canva is connected to this or if it can be connected. But I'm going to show you I'm going to ask it a different way. And this is only because I've had practice in doing this. So I'm just sharing with you, and I don't want to overstep or anything. You know, this is a learning process. So get familiar with ChatGPT and how you're prompting it. So what I'm going to do is, what are some visuals or visuals? To So the way that what it was doing, now it's still doing. Okay, now it's a little more specific. The prompts before were more of like the template. It was asking for the appeal. So the bigger kind of project. So that's why it was giving you step-by-step different pieces. Here, this is a little more specific because I'm asking it, what are some, visuals that will pair with each part of the appeal? So the logo and brand colors, each organization is going to have their own set. Vibrant background, again, that's something that's up to the person. Now this is, let's see what this comes up. So now we're going to use Canva to translate whatever it is that ChatGPT tells us into a visual. Everyone sees Canva? Yep. All right. Create a design. So what are we creating? Are we creating a document? Are we creating an Instagram post? What are we creating?
Or an Instagram post.
Instagram?
Sure.
So this app over here. So with Canva, you can also add on, there are different tools and apps that you can add onto Canva that you can use. So Canva is a visual AI, tool, but has different components, and it keeps adding things. So now there's actually sound, there's videos, there's stock videos, all those things. One of the other things that it is really cool that it has is this app over here. And what this app is it creates a visual out of whatever information you give it. So in here, in this little box, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paste the information from ChatGPT. And then I'm going to ask it to generate an image from this. Obviously, this is, again, it's a machine learning, so it's as good as it's as good as things that have been inputted to Canva. So this is what Ken, your mic is off. So this is what it came up with. Thoughts? Any wows? So that's one. And this is the other image that it came up with. Any thoughts? Interesting, right? So this is what happens when you don't have photos at your organization. And what I was mentioning earlier, which sometimes is a thing, sometimes it isn't a thing. But sometimes, they have like 7 fingers or 6 fingers. If you could, I don't know if like the fingers are weird. So there are little details that when you use AI, it's like wonky. So if you do use these images, take a look at them. But that's.
Can you hit the generate again button and see if we get better images? Because those are really creepy to me. I mean, I like drag queens actually, but these two are.
Let me see.
They look really artificial to me. They don't look like real drag queens to me. Especially that finger right there is really unnatural. It's like 3 times as long as it should be.
Let's see.
The one on the top is a little more natural, but the hair is very plasticky.
Let's see. I just shortened the prompt because I guess you can't do the prompt twice. What's in the chat? Show me a visual representation. Show the data. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So similar. similar, and the other one is the same.
Boy. Yeah.
So one piece that I want to add right here that's very apparent is how this is generated from aggregate data. And so the child here is white. So it inherits the bias of whiteness, being the majority kind of thing. So depending on your organization, you might want to prompt it something else, but know that is a bias that AI has, right?
I was wondering why everyone was a ginger.
So yeah, and I've used this for other things where I run groups of men of color, and using the word diverse does the complete opposite. It prompts it for to all people of color. Let's see, image of I'm going to prompt a diverse drag performer. Let's see if these fingers are fine. Yeah, those fingers look well. So when you prompt it diverse, it's supposed to be people, I think, of color. And still ginger. So with people, obviously it's very different when you ask AI to create people. But what are some other things that we might want to show that are not people that we might want to prompt AI? Or let's see, LGBTQ library.
You could show the parents behind the children, like being happy that the kids are there, which is usually what's happening. So it's a picture of the children, focusing on the children and their parents being happy that they're there, and the joy of the children. You could see that maybe the back of the performers, but that they're obviously in drag, but focusing on the joy of the children and their parents being happy to bring them there, having the opportunity.
So this was the LGBT library. So the flag is like the whole thing. So this is what it. So the thing with the AI, so eyes. Hands.
Ooh.
Eyes. Hands. Or, this also here. So when you do use this tool, make sure you do, check those little things out. And again, this seems very white representative of a white family. So the bias is still there. So that was for the image. I'm going to copy, let's see. I'm looking at the ChatGPT and see if we can use the image of drag performer waving. And this, so this was at the end next to the thank you. Let's see what it comes up with. Any questions, comments on this? So that's what it's supposed to be at the end. The drag queen saying thank you. What I also want to show you here, so this is for images, which is great. So translating, whatever it is that you brought over from ChatGPT and created, visually appealing appeal. But the other tool that you can use, and these are all for Instagram posts, because that's what we prompted, that's what we wanted to create, right? But you can also, the other templates that it has are newsletters. So one of the things that why I'm selecting newsletters is because that's the format that you would send your appeal with MailChimp or your email marketer. So when we prompted Canva here for newsletters, on this left side, it gives you some templates. So let's take, which one would you like to, let's do email here. Which one would you like to pick, Ken, out of these? If you can.
I like the one that has Sense and Style.
This one?
The Sense and Style one. There was one below, but yeah, I like that one with the three pictures and the subtitles and yeah. There was another one below it I also liked, but that had similar multiple boxes.
Mm-hmm. So this one, so we can change everything up, right, in here. The template is just the way that these blocks are organized. So we can go in here and change the title. We can go in here and change this subtitle, the images. How about I copy and paste some of these things? I'm not sure if this would be the right format for this because this is more of a letter. So maybe let me pick this one. I'm going to pick this one instead. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste the body of what we had already. And the only reason I use this template is because it's a lot of text. So the format, is more so of a letter. But again, we can move these, all these things are movable. So we can move it here. It gives you the margins for printing. And from here, you're gonna, because it's just a copy and paste, you're gonna have to format the paragraphs. I'm just gonna separate this out. And so let's change the title. So what I'm doing is just copying and pasting everything from ChatGPT right now. How's it looking so far? Any questions? What do you think of this so far? Obviously, the photos are going to be changed.
I like it. It's really cool to see how quickly you're able to paste this together from the content generated on ChatGPS. And also really cool just to say how efficient that GPS software was in honing down the original production into exactly what we wanted. That was just amazing to see.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll be able to get some real pictures of drag queens and children and not the ones that they were generating. That's where it was, when you expected them, they were always that was very, no, the final picture of a drag queen was actually a nice one with normal hair that wasn't like helmet head.
Here I'm just, moving around some photos. But everything is movable in this, which is one of the great things about Canva. Something else to note, so I just changed this font up here because it wasn't really reading well. It was a very different font. One thing that's really cool and intuitive about Canva is that if you look, let's say you click this and you want to change the font, you go up here and it will give you recommendations in terms of what fonts would actually look good with the other fonts.
Yeah,
So
I mean, this would be easy to clean up by just adding another page. You know what I mean? The text is too small and dense, and we need more pictures. But they're overlapping. But adding another page to the mail out the newsletter would which we don't have time to do. I'm not saying you can do it, but I'm just saying this would be easy to finalize. It's with where we're at, from where we're at.
Alex, were you going to say something? It was like curious. No? So let's say that this is the appeal, right? We're done. This is the last one. We're going to save it. What you can do if you have, well, I have MailChimp, but I believe you can use other software. You can send it to MailChimp. That means there. So there's MailChimp. I have my MailChimp connected to my Canva. So here it is, design. So it's going to save it. Great. Now I'm going to open up my MailChimp. So this is what MailChimp looks like. And so it just sent the design to MailChimp. So it's going to be a design file. What I need to do here on MailChimp is create the campaign. And so the campaign for this, what we're going to be using is email campaign. So create. These are, different options. We're going to do design email. This is just like an email marketing tool, any other email marketing tool. So you'll have to select your audience, who's sending it, what's the subject line, which we already got from ChatGPT. And you can schedule this. So let's say you create this now and you want to schedule it, you want it to go out on Friday, you can do that. Or you can just send it right away. For this, we're going to work on the content because this is what we just sent over from Canva. Yeah. So I'm just going to select this template. You've pasted your email appeal, your template onto MailChimp. So your content piece is already, this is what it's going to look like. Gives you a little preview. So you see how each component kind of goes into the next and how each app kind of talks to each other and helps you automate things and saves a lot of time. So we didn't get to finish this draft, but this is what it would look like, right? We'll do a little preview. And does this look like an email that you would be receiving? Obviously, it's not as polished, but does this look like any promotion or any kind of email from an organization that you would be sending out or that you would be receiving on your end?
I think we might use this kind of like the view that's in your browser at the top. That definitely looks like our TA Center flyers.
Can you say that again?
It looks like our TA Center flyers that our company sends out. Mm-hmm.
It looks like better than most, actually.
And this is the content piece that we were working on Canva, but there are other components that the call to action button that you would want to put in through MailChimp, because that's what you want people to click on. You want people to see the images, the visuals and everything, but you want the call to action to be big and you want it to be something that's clickable. So you would add that through MailChimp or your email marketer. You could also add some links at the bottom. Each organization is going to have their own footer saying where, the GDPR, saying that, the email, the opt-in, all that information, the organization's address, all those little details. And that's already set up with your account when you open your account. Any questions on this so far? Any thoughts?
I think it's great how it just like went through each of the applications and you were able to just like bring it right over and drop it into MailChimp. That was so cool. Very easy.
So this is preparing for, your launch for the appeal. The last thing I want to share with you is the other functionality of MailChimp, which is the analytical piece. And so for this, I'm going to be using one of my own campaigns as an example. View report. So I have a newsletter that I send out. And this helps me clean the data. So this is exactly, analytics report that I get. And it's really helpful for many reasons. First of all, it tells me if I don't know that each email is actually attached to a person or that each email is working or functional, it'll tell me that. There is a way to get bounce backs. When someone has terminated their email accounts, that might happen with employees. Somebody uses a work email, so you'll get a bounce back. If there's a typo, you're going to get a bounce back. So that that prompts you to, oh, there was a typo. Depending on how many you get bounce back, right? You want to go back in and check the integrity of the data, spell check, all that stuff. It also tells you how many people unsubscribed from your list. And that could be, there are a number of reasons. Someone went to a fundraising event, someone went to a community event, and the email you're sending them is something completely different. Or this was a one-off event and they just wrote their email and, we put it on, we just slap it on we add it to the list and then we send, but maybe they're not our right audience, right? It also tells us how many people clicked on the links. And that's helpful because let's say in the email, maybe the link, people didn't know that that's the link that people needed to click. And so they didn't. So every time you insert a link, make sure to hyperlink it, that it's blue and that stands out so that people know to click it. And that's why, the call to action button at the bottom of your email is so important because it's front and center. You want people to take that action when they receive your email. And it also tells you your open rate. So I believe I sent, 456 recipients and about 50% opened. That's actually pretty high in general. Open rates of 21 and up are pretty good, especially for nonprofits, because for nonprofits, people assume that you're asking for money and or community events. So both of those, if it's a community calendar, people don't necessarily click on it because it's not as exciting. And it goes into the promos folder, like the promos and updates folder. So people might not see it and they might not open it, or maybe it's your headline. People are not excited to open it because of your headline. And so one of the things for me, it's really important because I pay for MailChimp. So I need to know how many people are actually there that are receiving, So that's why this information here is really important to me, because if they're occupying space, so I can just remove them from the list. This is more sales. You could use emails for any kind of business. So this is more sales. There's this feature where it shares with you how to optimize your email. It'll tell you move the content up or content bottom. People start with a visual, and it also create an A/B testing situation. And what A/B testing is it's two ways of presenting the same information and finding out which one is better and for who. So if you have two, let's say if in our email, it started off with a banner at the top and then one email, and the second email just started with text. It'll share with you, if you do the A/B testing, it'll share with you which email did better and why. So, so this is what the content optimizer is. Like more text here, less text, the imagery, where to place it, the call to action button, because this is this is all a template. This is all proven to work the way that, these templates kind of work. You read it and then you prompt kind of thing, call to action. It'll give you analytics on what the links are and which ones perform better, which ones got more clicks. For me, my newsletter is kind of like a journal-ish thing. So for me, the most important part is that people read this story or they click on that story, which they did. And that's going to be, for me, that's like the first thing, because that's what I want people to read. These are some benchmarks that are helpful to know. So it was a little higher than regular. And, I put in professional services as my industry. So it's comparing it to to other professional service companies that also send these types of emails. So my click rate was low compared to my peers. And my unsubscribe was high, but that was like my first or second email, which is known to kind of happen. So every time you upload a batch of emails from a new system or database, you will get a drop in emails. So don't be, upset or sad or anything like that. And then the other cool piece of this, and this is based on just interactions with other tools like Google, other analytical tools that MailChimp actually speaks to, is the demographics. Combination of male, female, and another identity from 25 and up. So it will give you the demographic information for that. For me, that's important because I work with a population of 35 to 45. So to me, that signals I need to make this tighter. I need to make sure that my people who are on this list fit more of my demographic, because this is a bigger scope of people. So I'm not necessarily hitting the right targets. And that again is like, the more and more it learns about your audience, what your goals are, it'll share those analytics. Ken, I see you. Oh, I thought you were going to say something.
I was going to actually ask if there is is there some kind of benchmark that is known that or is followed for, if people consistently don't open the email, do you drop them from the list if they don't do that after a year or after a certain number of emails, or do you just kind of leave them on there until they unsubscribe?
It depends. So it depends on, if that one person takes you over to the 500 or whatever the next tier of the payment plan is. I would remove them, because if there's no engagement at any level, then what's the use? The only time I would say is different is if you segment your list into donors and community, community at large. The community at large, I would definitely clean up. But then the donors, there is a such thing as donor relapse, So if you have that information, actually this is happening with, I think GHC, some organizations that I work with, where they've acquired previous donors or previous lists, and now they're importing into it. And so they need to segment it into this is an informational newsletter communication, or is this a donor specific? And in some organizations where they're rebranding, the voices of the person sending the message is different. It might be different the way that the receiver gets it. So it might be XYZ organization and someone's hasn't donated or engaged because they have this idea that a previous leader is with them, and so they don't want to deal with them. But then comes in, me. I'm the new ED or whoever, and it's a breath of fresh air. And so in the from, where I went, let me go back to this. And this piece, the from, you would change that, right? So it's coming from a different person, and then you test it out to see if this person is engaging with it that way.
Thanks. That's really helpful. Appreciate it.
Anything else from this? Let me see if there are. I'm just going to do a quick look overview. So these are the different tags that I have for my company, but it might be, these tags could very well be the donation gifts, the levels. So $50 to $100, you can segment that way so that when let's say you send out an email and you know that someone has the capacity to give $50, you want to go for at least the $50. So your messaging is going to be very direct that way. If this is also good for community events versus donation or galas. So any kind of way that you want to segment your list, maybe it's program based, maybe certain programs only do certain things, or you have a private group. This is also good for donor circles, which I know that some organizations are kind of creating, like a little board, different tiers, young professionals. And this is how you would manage it with tags. Going back here, this is the piece that I was saying when new leadership takes over. So this will give you the information, how they have engaged in the past. So let's say 161 people, they haven't engaged at all, but they're there. And so if I'm coming in as a new leader and I'm sending the email and I see that that is still the case, then I would remove them. I also have a newsletter sign-up list on my webpage, and this is what tracks that. So it's just like a form that people, put in their name, email address, and this gives me that information solely just based on people signing up on my website. And then it tells me where they came from. So that they come from Eventbrite, or they prompted from there, or they prompted from my WordPress site, or something else. More on engagement. So 95%, your percentage of subscriber who are only very engaged and barely open, who are not very engaged. And again, this is, I think I sent out 2 emails. So this is the information that gives me based on that. This is another great thing that you get from MailChimp is their location. So if you're if you're an organization that's primarily focused in your jurisdiction, I think that you would want to have most of your people from the same area. Obviously, funders is a different, funders can be different, but depending on what the purpose of the message is, this will be able to give you, okay, for me, I'm trying to go everywhere. But I'm starting in California. So this gives me a good idea. It's like, okay, I'm on the right track, starting in California. And these are just more analytics. Over time. Any questions on any of this? I know that this analytical piece is a lot, and it's tailored to your needs. So however you use it, there are different tools in it and different sections that you can experiment with, play around with, or you might start small and then, start segmenting it out into different audiences to suit your needs. I feel like that was a lot of information for today. So I'm going to stop there.